As we come to the end of the first round of the Mae Young Classic, there's really only one thing left to say, and that's that Kairi Sane definitely came to this contest as advertised. Let's talk about episode 4. Everybody, it's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, here with episode 4, the last episode of the first round of the Mae Young Classic. And I gotta say, 3 good matches. What you're gonna watch from, what you're going to take from this episode is the final debut of Kairi Sane, which we're gonna talk about at the end. Everything else, as good as it is, pales by comparison, and I'm not saying that in any negative way. The other girls definitely put their stuff in, but there's a clear winner of the night type thing. When we talk about the Cruiserweight Classic, and you can't help but compare the two because the layouts are pretty much exactly the same. People always ask me, you know, like, in the early rounds, what was your favorite? You know, what was your favorite in the first couple of rounds? And, I mean, I'm a big fan of Gargano, so both of my favorite matches from that tournament, believe it or not, are Gargano versus Ciampa, obviously, and Gargano versus TJP, which I wasn't expecting, knowing that he was Suicide and not knowing TJP as we know TJP now. But if you look at the first round of the CWC, there's nothing that sticks out of the first round quite like Gargano versus Ciampa. I do believe that the main event of tonight's show is going to be the Gargano-Ciampa of the Mae Young Classic. And I don't think I'm going out on a limb saying that. I don't think I'm breaking any ice by saying that. But, not to sound like a dick, but let's get the other stuff out of the way so we can talk about that match. Renee Michelle versus Candice LeRae. Watching their promos, Renee Michelle's promo, or video package voiceover type thing, kind of rambles, and it's sort of got that very, very generic, I'm here to prove that girls can do it too, which would be great if that wasn't the concept of this whole tournament. All the other 31 competitors that you're competing with in this tournament are already proving that girls can do it too, so that really didn't hold much weight. Candice LeRae, on the other side of the coin, describes herself as a... Sorry, guys, I still feel like crap, as you can tell. Candice LeRae describes herself as a high-risk, high-octane. She doesn't want to call herself a high-flyer wrestler. She also mentions the fact that she's Johnny Gargano's wife. Johnny Gargano is also in the crowd, and both she and the commentators point out the fact that she's a 15-year veteran of the ring. So, I wonder who's going to win this match. We start with a collar and elbow tie-up. Candice LeRae works the arm. Shoulder tackle by Renee. And there's a pinning reversal sequence to follow. Jawbreaker by Candice and a springboard arm drag. High knee and a top rope missile drop kick by Candice. An arm drag transitioning into an arm bar by Candice and a kick by Renee. A neck breaker by Renee and a code breaker by Candice. The code breaker and the code breaker type maneuvers are very, very prominent in all the matches in this tournament so far, which is good, being a Chris Jericho fan and all that. Followed by kicks by LeRae. Neck breaker by Renee. Code breaker by Candice. Clothesline, back elbow, neck breaker, all in a row, all by Candice LeRae. Corner forearms and chops by Candice. Low drop kick by Candice and a spin kick by Renee. Renee misses a moonsault, which is fun, and I lost my place. And there's a running kick by Candice. A second rope neck breaker, known as the... I can't believe I'm saying this, so I'm going to try and describe it the best I can. She takes her to the corner, stands her opponent on one side of the corner, stands herself on the other side of the corner, and pulls off a second rope neck breaker that the commentators let us know is Miss LeRae's Wild Ride. And the opportunities for me to make very, very inappropriate jokes on that alone are plentiful. Candice LeRae gets the win with Miss LeRae's Wild Ride, and she goes on to face either Nicole Savoy or Reina Gonzalez in the next round. Great opening match. I really wish they gave me a reason to give a shit about Renee Michelle. They talked about how she's, you know, part Native and part Hispanic and part Black, and they make that sound like that's the most important thing about her character, but she's kind of crazy. If you want my honest opinion, she looks like she's overwhelmed by her surroundings, and I don't say that in such a way to take away from her efforts in the ring, because she put in a solid effort, and I know it sounds condescending when I say that, but she did. She came in, she got her stuff in, but she looked very overwhelmed by her surroundings, and she looked kind of lost in some of the match. That's about as nice as I can be about it. Candice LeRae, 15-year veteran, definitely looks like a 15-year veteran. I will say, I mean, it's very, very cool that Johnny Gargano is her husband and he's there in the crowd cheering her on. They pan to him a lot, which is cool in one sense because, you know, the family's there to see it. And I mean, you go to Lacey Evans later on, you see her family in the crowd as well, and that's fine. But it does, when you're panning to the crowd to the family support from another wrestler, you're momentarily putting the focus on that wrestler. And while I'm a fan of Johnny Gargano, this is not his stage. I think they could have done that a little bit less, but hey, that's a production issue more than anything else. Lacey Evans versus Taynara Conti. Lacey Evans, who refers to herself as the Lady of NXT, she's a former Marine. We've heard all this before because we've been following her in NXT. I like her in NXT. I didn't like her gimmick in the beginning. She kind of looked like the mix of the Patriot and Sailor Moon, and her get-up's a little different. But at the end of the day, that gets her some attention. We've heard a lot of backstage, or not backstage, but B-roll footage and video packaging on her and her family and her service to her country, which is all fine and well. But what it means is I'm much more familiar with her than I am with Taynara Conti, who all we really find out about from her is that she's from Rio de Janeiro, which is cool. She's a submission fighter, and when she's not a submission fighter, she's throwing people around. So you're a wrestler. It is. And once again, we get the mention that she's a 15-year veteran, etc., etc. They mentioned during the match that she's got a lot of MMA training, and there's a comment made by JR that both of these women are pretty well prepared for life, but not prepared to be in the ring. That's not something you should be saying on commentary. Before the match starts, we see Alexa Bliss in the crowd, which wakes me up and gets my attention because Alexa Bliss is fucking awesome. Conti rejects the handshake, but does give a respectful bow. So she disrespects her in one sense and respects her in a different one. I'm not sure quite how to take that. There's a collar and elbow tie-up and a headlock takedown by Conti. They trade forearms and Evans works the arm. A boot and an uppercut by Conti and a takedown by the hair. A spin kick to the torso by Evans, transitioning into an armbar. An overhead toss by Conti, who turns it into a double arm monkey flip. There's a single leg choke takedown by Evans, which is really nice. They trade some strikes and a rolling clothesline by Evans. Inverted tombstone pinning combination by Lacey Evans gets the win. And I'm really trying to come up with a way to describe this to you. But basically, if you can picture how somebody sits in front of you when you're going to do a tombstone, she was like that on her back, and she just drops straight down so that she's sitting on her shoulders. But it's not like she's pulling a maneuver and then transitioning it into a pin. The maneuver is the pin. I wouldn't want to take it. It looks dangerous. I look at stuff like this and say, yeah, but things like the Styles Clash are dangerous, right? Vince? Oh yes. Lacey Evans goes on to face Toni Storm in the next round, which means she does not have my following, because I hope Toni Storm does really good in this tournament. Moving on. And I lose the clipboard once again. Fuck off. Super professional. I am. Oh yes. Reina Gonzalez versus Nicole Savoy. Reina Gonzalez talks about being a second generation person, being 6 feet tall, and I expected Enzo to come along and say, and you can't teach that. And she dresses like Zorro, which is nice. Kind of distracting in the match, I'm not going to lie. Nicole Savoy basically addresses herself as the queen of suplexes, but don't worry, it doesn't mean she doesn't have a lot of submissions in her back pocket. Keep that in mind for later on. Nicole Savoy versus Renee Gonzalez. Renee meets the handshake with a stare down, and I'm sure it's supposed to be intimidating because she's this big 6-foot monster. There's this big size discrepancy and all this. But the stare down doesn't have any intensity behind it, so it's just awkward more than anything else. And like in the previous match, it just makes her look like she doesn't know where she's supposed to be for a second. Collar and elbow tie-up, and Reina works the arm as Savoy reverses it quickly. You know, anything you can do, I can do better. You guys know I love that story. Front slam by Reina, headlock by Savoy, battle of shoulder tackles and a Hurricane Rana by Savoy. A series of kicks by Savoy and a lariat by Reina. Boot by Savoy and a sidewalk slam by Reina. Reverse crab by Reina and hits her with lots and lots and lots of strikes by Savoy. Now here at this point, Reina Gonzalez gets her in a fireman carry position. You figure she's going to drop her one way or the other, but she doesn't. She just stands there. And it takes the cameras a while to get around to the fact that the reason she's standing there and not doing anything is because Savoy, even though she's in midair, has her in an arm breaker. Eventually, and kind of awkwardly, she breaks her down into a proper Alberto Del Rio style cross arm breaker, and that eventually gets her the win. But the transition is long, and the transition feels like it almost takes too long. It's once again like Gonzalez was standing there saying, oh right, this is where she's supposed to trap me in this armbar, and eventually rolls into place. Nicole Savoy gets the win. I liked her for what I could see, but Gonzalez was just very, from the first stare down to the final sequence, she was very awkward in this match. So I'm really glad that it's Nicole Savoy that's moving on. She's moving on to face Candice LeRae, who we just talked about moments ago. I really hope Savoy wins, honestly, because Candice LeRae, as much as she was very enthusiastic, I like seeing her in the ring, and I hope she does well in whatever she does. Nicole Savoy got my attention a lot more. So, let's move on to the main event between Tessa Blanchard and Kairi Sane. Now, Tessa Blanchard, you don't really need to do anything on. She's been in NXT for a long while. They talk about her dad being Tully Blanchard, being around the Four Horsemen, her grandfather being a wrestler as well, whose name I conveniently cannot remember at this moment. They show a lot of highlight packages from her from NXT, which is great. But then you've got Kairi Sane on the other side of the coin, who's from Japan, who's got lots of buzz, who's got the pirate gimmick. And I will say, from the beginning of this show, Lita and Jim Ross were telegraphing the finish of this match. I mean, Goofball from New York has already gone around telling the world that Kairi Sane's gone on in this tournament, so that's not even a surprise. But even if he hadn't, the way they were talking about her, they started at the beginning of the show, they started before this match. The long-awaited debut of Kairi Sane, who, is already the favorite in the tournament, and she's already the crowd's favorite, which is funny, because up until that point, the crowd hadn't seen her yet. But here's the thing, she's talking about lots of buzz. I know I drive this point home a lot, but I don't watch indies. I'm a WWE guy. I watch Raw, SmackDown, NXT, anything else you can find on the WWE network. I used to watch TNA before it died. I don't watch ROH. I gave it a shot a couple years ago and it bored me to tears, I'm not gonna lie. I don't watch Japanese wrestling. I don't watch New Japan. I don't watch IWGP. I don't watch any of these other, the guerrilla friggin' promotions over in the UK. I don't watch any of it, and I very rarely get involved in conversations. I mean, I know who Kenny Omega is because so many people are like jerking off to the guy hoping he comes to the WWE, and I don't know who Kairi Sane is, but I have been hearing the name Kairi Sane / Kairi Hojo for the past year and a half, just in passing. So I know that there's something here, and I know that there's something good coming, because the last person that was like that was Shinsuke Nakamura, which is fully true. I mean, is WWE neutering him on the main roster? Yes, but when he made his arrival to NXT, NXT changed. And I've been hearing so much, Kairi Hojo, we really hope she comes to WWE one day because we want to see her face Asuka, or wouldn't it be great to get Gail Kim back and get Gail Kim and Asuka and Kairi all in one match and all this sort of thing. Everybody that does watch the indies, that does any fantasy booking as far as the women's division goes, has talked about this girl, to the point where this is a character that I don't know, but I'm already sick of hearing about. But in the best way possible, if that makes sense. Now, they go on, Jim Ross explains that, in her homeland, she's a yachts person, a yachtsman, etc. She likes being out there on the boats. She's got her nautical knowledge and all that sort of thing, which contributes to her gimmick. And I will tell you something. I'm a big fan of the Pirates of the Caribbean, the movie series by Disney, as if any of you don't know that. I love the music from Pirates of the Caribbean. So when her music hit, and she came out with the big coat and the big fucking pirate gimmick hat and the steering wheel, before the match even started, I said, okay, I already love this girl. This girl's already fun to watch. She's already going to grab the crowd. She's already going to grab the crowd, have them right here. And you've got Tessa Blanchard, who's the unfortunate soul that has to sit on the other side of the ring from this girl and try to get at least some attention in the match. Now, Tessa Blanchard is going to take the loss, but I take a little bit of solace in that and don't feel so bad for her, because we know she's already, as much as enhancement talent can be entrenched in a roster, she's pretty entrenched in the NXT roster already. She doesn't need this. But Jim Ross and Lita both go out of their way to point out how crazy it is, how great these two women are, and the fact that one of them is already going to be gone is kind of depressing and sad and all that, which it absolutely is. So let's talk about this match. They have a handshake, and I know I focus on the handshake thing, but the handshake thing was a huge deal in the CWC, so it draws my attention in this as well, because they don't focus on it, but they've made it WWE has made it a thing. I know it's a thing in ROH. I know it's WWE. We're not the first ones ever to do the handshake, the sign of respect gimmick, but it is what it is. And as I said in the last episode, you've got the crowd at Full Sail, which is basically the NXT crowd, who are either quiet because they don't give a shit, which happened in a couple of the other matches tonight, or they've already picked out their one favorite in a match before the match even starts. Now, obviously, the crowd was highly, highly, highly behind Kairi Sane, but there was also a vocal minority that was all the way there for Tessa Blanchard. So let's go Tessa, let's go Kairi chants before this match even started. Full Sail was on fire, like they have been for all the main events of this tournament so far. Starts with a collar and elbow tie up and a test of strength and a key lock. Transitioned into a headlock by Tessa, tripping roll up by Sane. She basically it's a ankle trip followed through into a roll up attempt by Kairi Sane. Now, as cool as that maneuver was, if it had ended the match, I would have been really sad. Forearm and a neckbreaker by Tessa. Boot by Sane, who climbs up the turnbuckle, but Tessa stops her, and from the second turnbuckle hits a code breaker. There it is once again. But she hits a code breaker off the second turnbuckle to the chest of Kairi Sane. Ridiculous maneuver. Abdominal stretch by Tessa and forearms by both women. Then Kairi Sane breaks free. Kairi Sane, and I didn't mention this at the beginning of the match, has a distinct size disadvantage to Tessa Blanchard in this match. You can see it when they go face to face at the beginning. Kairi Sane goes for a spear, but the way the spear goes off, she hits the spear so hard that she herself bounces off. So both of them sort of fall away, and it does resemble a car crash in the best way possible. Chops by Sane in a corner spear and a baseball slide elbow. Phenomenal, in quotation marks, forearm off the top rope by Sane. Octopus submission by Sane and a choke on the ropes by Tessa. Rolling clotheslines by Tessa and a top rope senton.
Pay attention to how
Really? Really?
Tell me why this one's there.
Sorry guys, you gotta love it when my TV turns on by itself. Where was I? Yeah, there was that forearm by Sane that is phenomenal, so to speak. Octopus submission by Sane, rope choke by Tessa, rolling clotheslines by Tessa, and a top rope senton. At this point, they mention how great the senton is, but that she didn't hit all of it, that she didn't get as much of it as she wanted to. Hammerlock front face lock combination submission by Tessa, pinning reversal sequence, Alabama slam by Sane, and then, yes, it's going to rhyme with what I just said, but an absolutely insane elbow drop from the top by Kairi Sane gets the win. And when I say insane, I mean she almost twists her body like that's another phenomenal forearm, but she lands the elbow drop in such a way that you would believe that she drove her opponent through the ring. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm really ridiculously happy that I've finally gotten a chance to see this person that I've been hearing about for about a year and a half. She is worth all the hype that she's been given. And that's not me spitting hyperbole at you. This was by far the most fun match of the tournament so far. Kairi Sane's obviously the star of this match. Full credit to Tessa Blanchard for going in there and taking all of it, because all those maneuvers that they pulled off in this match were phenomenal. Again, no pun intended, but this was as close as we can get to the perfect match in the Mae Young Classic Tournament. Kairi Sane goes on to face Bianca Belair next round. Good luck to Bianca. You're done with your little hair whip Mortal Kombat bullshit. Show obviously ends in a big hug, big sign of respect. Tessa Blanchard holding up Kairi Sane's hand. Really cool, really feel-good, happy way to end the first round. Now, as we go into the second round, we've got our 8 second round matches, and I don't know when WWE is dropping these next matches, so you might not hear from me in this series for quite a while. But we've got Abby Laith versus Rachel Evers, and I'm sorry, I'm going with Abby Laith on that one. Princessa Suhaib versus Mercedes Martinez. I'm hoping it's Martinez. Nicole Savoy versus Candice LeRae. I already said I hope Nicole goes on. Mia Yim versus Shayna Baszler. Good luck with that. Kairi Sane versus Bianca Belair. Bianca's gonna go take a powder, as they say. Dakota Kai versus Rhea Ripley, I'm completely split on, because Dakota Kai is a lot of fun, but Rhea Ripley's impressive as fuck, so I win either way on that one. Serena Deeb versus Piper Niven kind of breaks my heart, because I was happy to see what Piper Niven did in the first round, but my vote goes for Serena Deeb. Lacey Evans versus Toni Storm. I gotta go with Toni Storm, but I don't know if that's the way it's gonna go. Now, somebody put in one of my other reviews, I guess they weren't watching the tournament, but they're watching my reviews anyway, which is really cool, and that's kind of really flattering. But they were talking about one of the competitors, and I said, hey, I've been following so-and-so on the indies for a while. It sounds like, from what you're saying, that they did really well. I'm glad that that's a thing. You know, thanks for reviewing so I could at least get the results, rah, whatever the case may be. So what I will say to anybody that is watching this right now, that doesn't have the WWE Network for whatever reason, and you want to watch the Mae Young Classic, I mean, I don't know why you'd be watching this review if you haven't watched the Mae Young Classic, but if you want to watch the Mae Young Classic and you don't have the network, my suggestion to you is go to bollyrules.net, and that's BOLLRULEZ.net. It's a great place to get the weekly WWE stuff. I mean, Raw happens on a Monday. They usually have Raw up there by Tuesday. SmackDown happens on Tuesday. They usually have it by Wednesday, etc., 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 as it all goes down. Now, if you're not able to see it through the proper channels for whatever reason, I really suggest go check out bollyrules.net. They have all of the first round of the Mae Young Classic on there. If you're looking for a place to download it, looking for a place to watch it, etc., they are a good place. This has been the first round of the Mae Young Classic. This has been a hell of a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it. I've been looking forward to this ever since they first announced that this tournament would be a possibility. As I say, don't know when they're dropping their next couple of rounds, so I don't know when I'm going to be back up here doing more of this series, but please, 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 put your thoughts down in the box below. Tell me what your thoughts are for the matches in the next round. We know Kairi Sane's going to go on. Like, that's a thing. That, like, just watching how they presented her tonight, like, that she's not being eliminated anytime soon. But the rest of it is kind of up in the air. Like I say, you've still got a lot of NXT talent in there that doesn't necessarily need to win. So they could do the favor. They could boost up some of these other not quite WWE yet talents. Anyways, hope you guys are enjoying these reviews. I've been Spaz, your YWC reality check. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation. Keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I'll talk to each and every last one of you later, but for right now, I am tagging out. Bye, guys.
You're a freak like me.